You do it differently. What is their approach to setting up a new business?
So this is the approach, right? Before I ever launch anything, do you actually have demand for the thing? I do a beta test, then we'll go into scale mode. Let's freaking throw fuel on the fire. I've had Cardone sitting where you're sitting. I've had Patrick Bet-David and Ed Milet I was just with on Monday. Cody Sanchez, Hormozy. Like, I've talked to everybody. These people don't just talk to anybody. You got to earn it. The most powerful thing I own is my brand. It's not even close. You take away all these businesses today, the brand and the skill set I have, I could rebuild it tomorrow.
What's your North Star in the social media world?
You know, I see all these people trying to make all this money and then they get divorced. They don't have a relationship with their kids. They have no faith. You guys have made a bunch of money, but your lives suck. I know what your lives are like behind the scenes. I think this message of the wealthy way is the most important thing to me. Truthfully, the big part of it is the faith element. And it's like, that's what's always guided me every step of the way.
Do you think you have a specific gift of simplifying things for people?
Dude, you're the first person to ask me that, and I'm glad you brought it up.
Let's bring up the market a little bit. The real estate market, the economy. Where are we right now?
You know, I think when the market shifted, I don't even know the total I lost, but definitely well over 1 million, maybe 2.
Our audience, a lot of our audience is land flippers.
Heck yeah. So guys, all right, this is my personal email if you get this deal.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show. Today we're going to talk about how to leverage social media to build an empire. And our guest has actually had already over 1 billion views online. He has hundreds of thousands of hours every single month that people watch his content. He has built multiple 7- and 8-figure companies on the back of his social media fame and presence. And you will definitely have heard of this gentleman already, and it's my good friend Ryan Pineda. Welcome to the show, Ryan.
Yeah, man. Happy to be here. Happy to have you, in the studio and in Vegas. And, we just filmed a good show with you. It was good.
Yes, I'm actually in his studio here in Vegas.
Yeah.
Because I was just on his podcast and he has a little extra time, which is rare. So we were able to get him convinced to be on my show. So super excited. Hey, so tell us, what does Ryan Pineda do? All the things you do.
The 2-minute version is, before all this, I was a baseball player and, I got drafted by the Oakland A's, and that's all I ever wanted to do was play baseball. I played professionally for many years, but in the minor leagues, you don't make any money. So I was literally making $7,000 a year playing minor league baseball. And so I was forced into entrepreneurship. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I never wanted to be a real estate investor. I didn't care about any of it. And as time went on, I got pretty good at flipping things and finding deals and negotiating and marketing and all the skills that you need to be a good entrepreneur. I didn't realize I was just developing them naturally, because I knew they were just needed to run businesses. So, as time went on, ended up getting into house flipping, which became kind of like my first big endeavor, and, became a millionaire that way. And then eventually that led to other businesses like tax firm, like brokerage, and, some other things. Got into education, got into social media, and, it's just opened the door for lots of different businesses.
Right. So I want to talk particularly about the social media piece with you, but the one thing that strikes me always when we talk, and we know each other for a bunch of years, we both belong to a large real estate investors organization of some of the top real estate investors in the country, the Collective Genius. And we sat there together a few years ago and we kind of exchanged notes about your business and our business. And I think everyone left after lunch and we're sitting still there in a shady spot for like 2-3 hours afterwards. And that's kind of like how we started. And what strikes me as really impressive with you is that you don't just have one thriving business, but a whole bunch of them. So right now you run a successful real estate company. You run what's the tax company? Was that
TrueBooks?
That's basically an accounting and bookkeeping company, I would assume, right? Then you used to have a brokerage. You don't have that anymore, right?
Yeah, we had 200 agents and just became not really worth the time anymore. So let it go.
Okay. So let that go. And then you started a social media company first, probably to increase your reach, right? And an education company. But that now has turned into its own kind of education company where you teach people how to do social media. And you run all of these, yet at the same time, you just gave birth, your wife just gave birth to your to the newest baby boy, right? So congratulations.
I delivered him myself in the bathtub.
Yes, I read that. Yes, that is like amazing. So you're on top of it. You have a career as a midwife now. Right?
Yep.
So,
I have a midwife business now.
So how do you structure your day? It's one of your. How do you manage this all? What's kind of your strategy to manage all these different businesses?
Okay, so for me, once again, I never really wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I never envisioned having lots of businesses and things. I've just simply started things as I've heard demand for them. So it's like you do one thing, let's just say I started flipping houses, and then everybody's like, dude, teach me how to flip houses. How'd you do it? Right. And so you go into education, just kind of like the demand is there. Then, taxes are a problem. And everyone's like, dude, who does your taxes? You're not paying what I'm paying and you made more. And I'm like, well, I'll just start it. Right. So we start that. The same thing with social media. I started social media in 2020. And at the time, there was no agencies. There was no real coaching programs, especially in the entrepreneur space. Entrepreneurs weren't really taking it serious. And I'm like, well, I'll just have to build the team myself. Nobody's doing it. So we build our own team and create our own system and structure. And, since then, you actually were, I've been thinking about it for a while, but you were like, dude, you called me up and you're like, help me with social media. What do you have? And I'm like, I don't sell anything for that. But you weren't the only one. There was a lot of people. Yeah. And I was like, dude, you know what? Let's try it out with you and let me know how it goes. And, it worked out really well. Yeah. And then finally I was like, you know what, we'll start the coaching. And then, we do the coaching. And eventually people are like, who's going to edit our videos? Who's going to do this? And I'm like, all right, we'll do the editing now. We'll build people's brands. We'll create their graphics. And so basically all this just keeps springing up from demand. And just knowing who our avatar is as a client. It's like my clients aren't just real estate investors. They're like, yo, I want to be on social media. I need my taxes done. I need this. And so all of it is with the mindset of I'm going after the entrepreneur, the hustler, the investor, usually somebody who's 21 to 45 years old. And that's the demographic. And so I create products and businesses for them. So that's kind of why they started. But how they're ran is that I have a parent company called Pineda Company. And, we have our own C-suite at that level. And that's kind of where I spend my time. And I don't want to say this because it makes it seem bigger than it is, but I feel like we're kind of like a mini private equity firm at the top level. And then all these companies underneath are just, the portfolio.
So first of all, yes, I remember, I was struggling with social media. Now we have been coaching for 15 years. We have a very thriving coaching program. We helped 1,000 people to get to millionaire status already in the land flipping side of things. But on social media, we just simply sucked. Right? So I was trying to get, I had just about a year and a half ago or so, I had 4,500 people following me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And with all the efforts, and we tried hiring all kinds of different people. And within 1 month, we went from 4,630 people to 4,660 people, something like that. We gained 30 people in 3 months. It was and they were all excited. You have 30 followers. It's something is wrong with that message here, right? This is not something to be excited about. I should be getting 30 an hour or 30 a day or something like that. So it's I finally was frustrated enough because we tried a bunch of stuff. We tried for multiple years actually. Yeah. And we picked up the phone. I was I texted you and it's Ryan, you have hundreds of thousands of things. Can I talk to your team for a little bit?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. So you were nice enough to let me talk to Justin at a very reasonable rate. And then, of course, I wanted to pay for it.
Yeah.
I don't take it for granted. And Justin walked me through what team we need to set up and things. So we put our team together. We got it going. And within a matter of 6 months, we had over 100,000, over 150,000 followers. And by now we're over 300,000 followers across the different platforms.
I love it.
And we're like, wow, that was amazing. So I fully get it. I mean, and often that's what you need to do. You need to get the best advice out there and you need to solve it. But now going back to the question. What you just described is every entrepreneur's mind.
Yeah.
Right? Every entrepreneur's mind is oh, I see demand. Let's start this. Oh, I see demand. Let's start this. What most entrepreneurs now do, and you don't do that, is they get sucked into all of these things. Mm-hmm. And as a result, they do 5 things half-ass. and none right.
Right.
You do it differently. What is your approach to setting up a new business?
So this is the approach, right? I think I described step one, which is, do you actually have demand for the thing? Because a lot of people will be like, this is such a good problem that we're going to solve. And I'm like, have you asked anyone like if they want that problem solved? Have you actually went up to them and said, hey, would you pay this for this? Right. So before I ever launch anything, you better believe I've probably already been hearing about it for 6 to 12 months. And I'm like, all right, you know what? The demand is too high to ignore. And so I think, like I said, you were the catalyst where I was like, you know what? Fine, let's beta test. And that's kind of what I do too. I do a beta test before I ever really get into it. So, demand's there. That's number one. Number two, all right, cool. Now that we have demand, let's start building out the business plan. So we build out the business plan and, I start understanding, hey, who are the people that I need? What's our budget? What's our projection? How are we going to launch? What's the offer? I build out all of those things. And for me, the most important person we're going to hire is the operator off the bat, because I am not going to be the operator.
Right.
And so if I don't have an operator, the business can't start. So ideally, I'm either getting an operator who's, maybe they got some equity, maybe they don't, maybe they're just on salary. Whatever the case is, I need an operator in order for this to work. Because if I don't, then to your point, I'll be spread too thin across everywhere. So I find an operator. From there, while we're in this planning stage, that person gets hired. And now it's their job to hire their team. So it's like, hey, these are the people we're going to need. And like for us, we always start off profitably. I don't start things just to be like, all right, in about a year, we'll achieve profitability. Like, no, I'm like, let's make money right now and be profitable. Right. And we always start out organically growing. So I don't want to like throw fire on it right off the bat. Like I'm going to organically start selling, and usually at a lower price, and kind of like it's still beta mode. We're going to get beta testing and hear feedback from the customers, and we don't take it, the wrong way. We're like, dude, please tell us what you don't like and what's wrong. And that process might take 6 months, 12 months, like whatever it is. And from there, once we feel like we've really perfected it, then we'll go into scale mode and we'll be like, all right, let's start running ads. Let's start going hard. We know the product's good now. We've got testimonials now. We've got people who have told us this is great. Let's freaking throw fuel on the fire.
All right, that makes total sense. Now, I know my audience is going to immediately ask the following question. It's like, okay, how do you find that operator?
Yeah. So to go back to social media, I think one of the biggest tools of social media is recruiting talent. And I can make all the cases for social media and why you need to do it. I'm not going to do that today, right? I mean, most people, they have the misconception that...
Oh, we'll talk about that. I want you to make that case. Yeah, but
okay.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, one of the things, I would say the most obvious thing people think about with social media is they're like, oh, well, if I get a big following, I can get more clients, customers, investors, deals, whatever generates revenue for your business. And so they only think about that one aspect. It's kind of like when you buy real estate, when people only think about cash flow. It's like, no, that's not the reason you buy real estate. The reason you buy real estate is for appreciation, taxes, all this stuff, right?
Appreciation.
Yeah, that's where you get really wealthy. And, so people think about social media that way. And I'm like, dude, social media is so much bigger than that. You have no idea. One is relationships. The fact is, on my podcast, I've had Cardone sitting where you're sitting. I've had Patrick Bet-David and Ed Milet I was just with on Monday, like Cody Sanchez, Hormozy. Like I've talked to everybody. Right. Now, these people don't just talk to anybody, you got to earn it. You got to give them a platform that actually is worth their time and they feel like it's a good value for them. For me, dude, it's like I'm getting a one-on-one coaching session from these guys like for free. It's great. And I'm getting exposure. I'm building relationship. And I'll tell you, all of those people, when it was all said and done and, we hung out and got to know each other, we built a relationship.
Right.
And then that relationship turned into something more later on where he's like, hey, they're speaking at WealthCon, or, hey, we're doing a deal together, something. So relationships are huge on that front, but they're also huge for recruiting. And so I feel like I'm able to attract A-level talent or A-level partnership opportunities because of social media that others can't get. Because you got to really think about this. When you're recruiting talent, let's just say no one knows who you are. Okay. You're going on LinkedIn, you're doing the stuff and you're like, hey, I got a job opportunity. I'm looking for a COO. It pays $100,000 a year and whatever, right? And people are going to apply and all this stuff. They know nothing about you. There's no context. They're just looking at a number that you're going to pay them. And so that's the only reason they really want to work there. They don't know anything else. Whereas for me, I put a job ad out and I'm like, yeah, I'll tell them what it'll pay. I'll be like, look, this is a sales job. You can make 6 figures. You might make even multiple 6 figures if you hustle. And you already know what we do over here. You know the environment. You've seen it on social media. You know the culture. And we just get applicant after applicant. And here's the difference. Instead of us trying to recruit and convince somebody to come work for us, they're recruiting themselves and trying to convince us to hire them. So it's a totally different thing of how you go about getting talent.
That's beautiful. Yeah. That's one aspect. Yeah. And let's go deeper into social media because the one thing that we noticed right from the get-go is, again, we have the premier land education company in the country.
You guys are the best.
We have the most success. We have everything.
Been doing it the longest.
Every credential that you can check on there.
Yeah.
But there's about 300 and out of 335 million people in the United States, there's about 900,000 that don't know us. Right?
Yeah.
So, and those guys, what they do is, and that's the same thing for everyone listening here or watching this, the very first thing they do is after you contact them on anything, they go on social media and see like, what do you got? Is there any reviews? How does it look like?
Yeah.
And so the number one first thing that it did for us is it changed completely the conversation with our sales team. Yeah. When somebody comes on board and wants to consider coaching with us, because they're not asking who is Jack anymore. They're not asking is he legit. They're not asking who is that cat or is there anything. No, they go, oh, okay, he has 120,000 followers or 100,000 plus followers over here, 100,000 followers over here, 50,000 followers over there, and yeah. Let's talk about what he has to offer, and let's talk about whether that is a fit for me, right? Yep. And I'm sure, for you, at this point, that's like a given, right? Because you have...
Well, and that's the thing, right? So, you're talking about, whether it's paid ads or not, somebody who didn't know you're bringing into the funnel.
Yeah, through the paid ad model, of course.
Yeah, and so...
But even non-paid. Because non-paid, they come in, they see something randomly popping up, and it's like, well, I like what this guy says, but is anyone else... liking what he says? Because it's only cool to like something if everyone else is liking it, right? So they look at, oh, okay, I better listen to what that person says.
Yeah. So let me tell you about the customer journey for how I see it on social media is, okay, there's people that, maybe have been watching my content for years and have never bought anything. And, there's reasons for that. One, maybe their current situation doesn't allow them to do it. They're not in the right frame of mind. Maybe I don't even have a product that they like, right? Like there's lots of reasons, but I've seen over the years that those people end up converting at some point. They attend an event, they join a program, a service, whatever, right? And I'll hear it. They'll be like, hey, I've been watching you for years. I'm so happy I finally got to do this. So, sometimes it takes years in the making and ads will never do that, right? They've just been watching organic content that, help them build trust and belief in what you're doing. So I think the first thing to understand with getting more customers is the only way people buy from you is if they trust you. And so what you were describing earlier was trust. They're like, is this guy legit or not? They don't trust yet. Yeah. So, back in the day when you were trying to build trust, it was like, all right, let's go have coffee. Let's go to lunch. Let's go golf. What you're basically saying is, let's spend time together. That's how we're going to build trust. Let me talk to you and show you that I'll do what I'll say I'll do. The cool thing with social media is we can build trust at scale now, because when I do an hour podcast, it's kind of like they're sitting right next to me for an hour and we're having coffee, we're having lunch, whatever. And so when you really think about it, if somebody's watched, say, 10 hours of my content, they know who I am at that point. You've spent a lot of time with me and you're probably going to buy if and when the situation is correct. So time is a huge element of gaining trust. It is probably the only element that matters. And, you're not going to just trust somebody the moment they walk in the door. If you have no context, it's your first time seeing them, you'd be stupid to trust them. But you go spend 10 hours with them, you're like, I know what this guy's all about. Cool. How does that relate to paid ads? Well, there's multiple ways people can stumble upon you. They can stumble upon you organically. And then at that point, they're going to say, all right, well, let me continue to watch this guy's stuff. Or they're going to stumble upon an ad, and then they're going to do what you said, where it's like, all right, what's this guy talking about land flipping? Let me go check him out. And they go to social media. And one of two things happens. They look at it. They're like, all right, I'll go hop on the sales call, right? Or they'll say, you know what, I'm going to follow him for a little bit and see what happens. Either way, now they're going to get to spend time with you. And eventually, that should lead to a conversion. Or hopefully you've been doing it a long time and all of a sudden you start running ads. They're already aware of you, but now they just didn't know about the opportunities you had. So now they see an ad for WealthCon and they're like, oh, dude, Ryan's got an event. He's got freaking Ed Milet and this guy. I'm going to that because they were already ready. It's just in my content, I never talked about WealthCon, so they would have never known. So like, there's so many ways that content basically, like I honestly believe people who don't have content, especially in the education space, I just don't think they'll ever survive. Like they used to be good, but I don't think those guys last anymore.
Yeah, I agree. No, I mean they can for time being right now, they can still make a splash in the market, or they can be visible through to just paid advertising and so on. But or if they're really good at SEO or something like that. But social media is the first place anyone looks.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I've talked to these other real estate guys who've been doing it like 10 years plus. And, you know, I would call them not content creators, but I'd call them digital marketers. You know, there's a difference.
Yeah.
And, you know, one guy in particular I'm thinking of, I'm not going to name him, but him and I have talked and we're friends. And he goes, dude, you did it the right way. He's like, we both spent the same amount of time in front of the camera creating content. I just happened to spend many, many hours writing scripts for ads and VSLs and webinars, and that's how I spent my time. You spent your time just creating free content that people could enjoy, and the result was they still bought anyway. But you got the goodwill and the brand and everything else.
Exactly. It's the brand part. So let's talk about brand a little bit. So the biggest difference between paid advertising, I agree that, I mean, paid advertising has a purpose, is always going to be there.
Yeah.
But it's only a fraction as effective without that piece, because you're building a brand, because your paid advertising, the moment you turn it off, it's gone.
Yeah.
Though your content is there forever.
Yeah.
And while your hair color might change. Right?
There we go.
So it's which actually keeps reinventing you, which is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would have to put on my glasses, take my glasses off, or have the 3 last hairs
You could
removed.
get some cool glasses.
But yeah, I know. I need to get some different ones.
Just get some crazy glasses.
Yeah, I'll do that. It's a branding effort, really. It's truly a conscious branding effort. And I 100% agree that when I saw you doing what you're doing, and again, we spoke probably, what was that, 2020, 21, or whenever it was.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, he's doing it the right way. This is the proper way. This is the modern way. This is the new way. And we're really a dinosaur in the back day. And that's when I kind of like understood, yes, we need to do that too. And really every business needs to do that.
Yes. Agreed.
That's the key.
Every entrepreneur needs to do it.
I mean, air-conditioned businesses should be doing that. I mean, everyone out there should be doing that.
Yeah. I mean, look, you go where the attention is. So it's like 20, 30 years ago, where was all the attention? Well, it's on the TV. That was like where everybody's at. Before that, where were people at? I mean, they're on the radio, they're on billboards. Like, those were the only ways to get attention and get your brand out there. It's like today, obviously, everyone's on social media. It's not even a debate. And for this foreseeable future, I don't know where else they're going to go. Like, social media is it. Now, the platforms change, all that stuff changes, but the ability to create content, communicate, and, you know, build a community is going to be something that's around for a very long time. And so I think that if you don't have the skill today, I don't care how old you are, I don't care how much money you've had, like, you're a great example of somebody like, dude, you don't have to do this. Like, you've made it. You're good either way. But if you truly do want to, like, make a huge impact and grow your community and build, like, this is the way, regardless of what's gotten you to this point today.
What are some other ways that social media benefits?
Dude, there are so many. You know, one point that you brought up was, you know, all these people that, you know, aren't really doing it, right? And so it's like, well, the competition's not as fierce as you think. A lot of people are like, is it too late? You know, can I get on it? I'm like, how many, name off the top of your head, like 10 people you like in your industry on social media. And maybe they'll name 5. I'm like, so there's 5 people you're competing against. It's not hard to stand out. People just aren't willing to put in the work. The statistic is 99% of people consume content from the 1%. That's the stat.
Right.
That's crazy when you think about it. If you get in the 1%, you've made it. It's crazy. And like also too, let's think about this. If you're looking at the long-term value building thing, right? I mean, we're real estate guys. I get it. I love real estate. It's like you buy a house, 30 years from now, that thing's paid off. It's probably tripled, quadrupled. That's an amazing asset to have. For me, I want to do that, obviously, and we do that. But the most powerful thing I own is my brand. It's not even close. I mean, the fact is, you take away all these businesses today, the brand and the skill set I have, I could rebuild it tomorrow. Like, you can't take the attention, you can't take our list, you can't take any of that stuff that we have and we've built. And if I do this the next 10 years, the opportunities are endless. Like one thing that we've really gotten into is partnering with other businesses and like, being able to attract those kinds of businesses that are already doing really well. And they're like, we want to scale. How do we do it? And I'm like, well, we got these coaching programs. And they're like, well, we want to work with you. And I'm like, well, you're going to give me equity. And they're like, cool. Like, let's do it. So now I'm an owner in more businesses than I've even mentioned. And it's just like, that's going to continue to happen for the next 10 years. And so when I think about like, what's my path to building wealth? Yeah, real estate's always going to be a part of it, but like that side of it is going to be infinitely bigger.
Yeah.
And, I'm excited for that. But, with all forms of marketing and advertising, except social media, it's pay to play. And at the end of the day, you pay this money, and the moment you stop paying, the ad goes down.
And your visibility disappears.
Everything disappears.
Go from 100 to 0.
Yep.
Gone.
Everything's gone. And with social media, to your point, we go film this podcast, put it up on YouTube. It's there forever. They don't charge us anything. Doesn't matter. They're cool. People can go back to it 5-10 years from now, go watch the video. It's crazy that you can do that. You can just market for free, unlimited. YouTube doesn't cap you. YouTube's not like, hey, dude, you're like, that's too much. You posted yesterday. Don't post today. They're like, no, post as many times as you want because we want people to watch your stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, the cool thing is like YouTube and these guys partner with you. They want to share an ad revenue. They'll pay you to do it. And also, if you're good at keeping people on YouTube, AKA creating engaging content, they will push you more because it's a win-win for everyone. And so it's a weird situation because with ads, you performing better has nothing to do with them. They're like, how much did you pay us? Your ad could be the best, but we don't really care. Once you stop paying us, you're out. So for organic, they're like, no, dude, make good content and we will push it, dude. Let's do this together. And it's just crazy that it works that way. And here's the other part I always tell people is social media has an exponential return on your budget. So the way you got to look at creating content is the same you'd look at your marketing budget. So you'd say, hey, you know what? My marketing budget is 20 grand. Let's just say that. And you're going to start allocating and you're like, I'm going to put 5 grand at PPC, 5 grand at this. Well, to me, it's like, all right, let's say you put 5 grand towards social media per month, edits, content, video, all this stuff. And, year one, let's just say you do what you did and, you get 100,000, you just pop off and it goes great. Well, during that path to $100,000, you made however much money you made and it was great. You got a good return. Here's the thing. Going into year 2, you now have 100,000. You don't have to spend more than 5 grand. You can keep the same output. Obviously you'll probably want to scale up and do more because you're an entrepreneur like me, but let's just say you stayed at 5 grand. Well, when you have 100,000, 5 grand goes way deeper because you're still putting out the same amount of content and all that stuff, but you now have way more eyeballs. And so what happens? Well, you make way more money and you're still spending the same.
Right.
And then you do it again in year 3 when you have 300,000 followers and, you make even more. So it's like, I don't know of any other marketing strategy where you spend the same or more and you just get that much like greater return because every other form of marketing actually gets diminishing returns. You spend more and then you realize like, dang, this isn't converting the way it used to.
Yeah.
Let's stop it.
Yeah. ad fatigue and all this kind of things happening too.
That doesn't happen with content. It exponentially increases.
Yeah. I know you now. I mean, obviously, you have sponsors for your podcast. You have, or did you still have sponsors?
No,
or don't anymore.
I sponsor my own podcast.
Okay,
with my own
used
companies.
to have sponsors.
Yeah.
Right? You have sponsors for your podcast, and now there's other kind of like product placement, all this kind of things, like special kind of reels. I don't know if you do that, but other people do. Right?
Yeah.
Like in the industry, that can be another income source that people do. I mean, I know like some of the top players out there, they charge $1 million for to have them do a reel about something.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously neither you and for certain not am I at the point to charge those kind of numbers. But over time, there's monetization just in the reach, and brands reach out to you and say like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that?
Yep.
And you have done a little bit of that, but I don't see you do much of that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know the last time I did a brand deal, like as far as like that goes. Now what happens is, to what I was talking about earlier, like businesses and things will reach out and they'll be like, hey, like, you know, we want to grow. Do you want to work out an affiliate deal and all this stuff? And the majority of the time I'm like, no, like I got my own businesses to promote. But if you want to talk equity, let's talk about what that looks like. Cause then that's a different story. And so those things happen. Now there are things that happen where I'm already a fan of it and I'm just wearing it anyway and I'm doing stuff. And they're like, dude, like, let's do something bigger together. And so like, that's what happened with the suit. So Scene is the name of the company. And I already have been wearing their suits. I love their clothes. They're amazing. And the owner came up to me. He goes, dude, I see you wearing our stuff. Like, we want to do a collection with you. And I was like, all right. So tell me about what you're thinking. They're like, well, we'd pick all the designs. We'd build this collection together. We'd do a big photo shoot. Then we're going to go run a lot of ads on it, like multiple 6 figures of ads. And, you're going to get a percentage of the profit and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, first off, I'd have probably just did it for free because it's tight. 2, the fact that you're going to go get me 6 figures plus of exposure with ads to a totally different audience who's like, this is not like a real estate audience. This is just clothes and, all that. Right. That's great for me because now I'm attracting a new audience. And then 3, whatever money it makes, it makes. It's not why I did it. So overall, just a really good partnership that way. And so like those things happen. Like I have another partnership with Titleist, and I'm super into golf and I always post about golf and stuff. And so they're like, dude, we want to hook you up. We want to like get you all these clubs, and they already made me a custom bag and all this stuff. They're not paying me anything. I don't care.
I heard some whispers you're looking to go pro on the thing. You have to set this goal to become so good that you either could become pro or go pro, or have just as a personal challenge, or is that something that you want to just do for fun, or is there a deeper reason behind that?
There's definitely no deeper reason. I took up golf 2 years ago and I freaking love the game. I do miss competing, man, because look, business is competitive, and it's full of competitive people, and like some people will, look at others as their competition, and like they're like, oh, we're gonna beat those guys and make more money than those guys. And honestly, I've never really cared. So it doesn't. I get no competitive spark from it. Like my competitiveness comes from, I want to get better every day and I want to improve the business and make more money and do all that stuff. But like the true me versus you type competition doesn't exist for me in business, but it does in sports. And so I'm like, dude, you know what? I need to fill this need and this void in my life to compete, because that's just how I was raised.
No, of course. I mean, you played professional sports, it makes total sense. And that's a typical. A friend of mine runs a mastermind for retired athletes, and that's the number one thing they say. They miss 2 things. Number 1 is the camaraderie in the locker room.
Yep.
And number 2 is competing and actually having a exact score. Like at the end of the day, 3-hour baseball game,
we won.
3-hour thing, or like it's 3-1. It's 27.
We won. You
17,
lost.
and so on. Yeah. To that point, like I mean, what you just illustrated, the brand deals is what everyone is dreaming of, but not really thinking about. You hear about The Rock, getting an equity piece in a vodka or tequila company and becoming a billionaire. You hear about same thing happens with different kind of the Kardashians and things like that. Is that one of your outcomes at the end of the day, or is it just something that happens while you now build this? What's the ultimate, like? What's your North Star in the social media world?
I don't think it has anything to do with money. So, I'll say 2 things. As far as like where does this all lead to? Where does it go financially and everything else? I think that to that point, I think there's just going to be opportunities brought to me that are going to be really big, and they're inevitably going to make a lot of money. I don't know how much money. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know. I have no idea, but it's just like, to me, it seems inevitable that if I do this the next 30 years, that I don't know how much money I'll make. It seems inevitable. So I'm just open to any and every opportunity. And that's the way I've always been, where I'm not closed-minded, where I'm like, I'm just a real estate guy. I'm only going to do this. Oh, you want to do a suit thing? Tight. Let me learn about this industry and what you guys got going on, how it works. And now I know a lot about that, all right, let's do this business and that business. And, now we have a SaaS business that we just acquired, and it's like, all right, I'm learning a lot about SaaS and I just truly enjoy the curiosity of it. And so 30 years from now, at least financially, whatever happens, happens. And look, when you're putting your, I guess, like, in a lot of different things, you run the risk of, some of them blowing up and not working. That's inevitable. And like, that will happen. And, it's already happened sometimes. So it's just like, it is what it is. But I just truly enjoy trying new things and seeing what I'm capable of. So like, that's one thing. As far as like, what's the North Star on social media? When I first got started, it was very different than what it is today. When I first got started, I said, you know what? I want to be the most known house flipper on social media. That was my goal. It was a very attainable goal. I felt like there wasn't like that many guys out there, and I knew I had the credibility to do it. And I felt like I achieved it after a couple of years. From there, it was like, what's next? I'm not going to just talk about real estate all day. And so I start talking about entrepreneurship. I start talking about faith. I start talking about family and relationships. And then this idea of the wealthy way comes about. And I realized that that is the most important thing to me, because, I see all these people trying to make all this money, and then they get divorced. They don't have a relationship with their kids. They have no faith. They're out of shape. Their health sucks. And I'm like,
so describe the wealthy way to me.
Yeah. So, The Wealthy Way is a book I wrote about a year ago almost. And, it's still a bestseller today. But, it was this philosophy on life. They basically, the question I kept getting, going back to demand, when somebody asks you a question so many times or wants something, that there's demand and there's a product for it. So the number one question I kept getting asked was, how do you manage it all? Like, you're golfing here on Friday. You leave the office every day at 5. You don't work on the weekends. You're, doing stuff at church. You're holding these Bible studies. You're in shape. Like, how is it even possible? And I was like, to me, it's not that hard, because I just have like a system and a routine. And
that's how we started the podcast. I asked the exact same question.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And that was how the Wealthy Way came about. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to create it into something that people can understand. And so like that is what the Wealthy Way is. It's the philosophy of how I live my life and how I believe everyone should live their life, and how you can truly, be abundant in all areas, how you can have great relationships, how you can build your wealth, how you can, be in shape, how you can be spirit-filled, all those things. And people have really resonated with the movement, man. And, we get so many people in our coaching programs who come in not because they like want to get super rich in real estate or business. They're like, dude, I just want what you're talking about. Like, I'm good if I make a couple $100,000. I just want to spend more time with my kids. Like, that's what's important to me. I want to serve in my church. And so I think this message of the Wealthy Way is the most important thing to me. And truthfully, the big part of it is the faith element. And it's like, that's what's always guided me every step of the way. It's like, whether I was making $7,000 a year playing baseball or to where I'm at today, I've always been happy and content. Like you would have never heard me complain back then when I was making $7,000. I was doing exactly what I wanted to do. And I was doing exactly what I felt like God was calling me to do at the time. And then even today, it's like, yeah, okay, we make more money, but guess what? I have like 1,000 times more problems than I did back then. Oh. And you'll never hear me complain about it. I'm just like, this is what comes with, doing a lot of stuff. And for me, when I just look at the social media landscape today, if 3 years ago, the goal was become the most known house flipper, today it's like, what's the biggest need in the world and the field I play in? And I feel like the biggest need at this point is a Christian entrepreneur who all these other Christian entrepreneurs and business people can relate to and hear from, because nobody's really out there doing it. Like all the big entrepreneurs you see today, They're not Christian. They all subscribe to the hustle culture. They all subscribe to, they've been divorced. They're like, dude, you don't need to hang out with your kid. Like, grind, and I'm like, guys, you guys are idiots. You don't get it. You guys have made a bunch of money, but your lives suck. I know what your lives are like behind the scenes. I've met you, I hear the stories. And so to me, it's like, dude, if not me, then who?
Right.
And so that's kind of like my mission now.
I like that. If not me, then who? That's so few people say that. Like, most people say, like, somebody needs to do something. Somebody needs to do it. And nobody says, like, hey, how about me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why not me? Putting this all together and keeping it all organized requires almost like a special sense for simplifying. Do you think you have a specific gift of simplifying things for people?
Dude, you're the first person to ask me that, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that's something that I've been thinking about a lot. When I look at the most like famous podcasts and people really like people that they resonate with, I see a lot of like detail and confusion. So to give you an example, a lot of these mindset guys are like really big, psychology, like Jordan Peterson and everything else. And so like you'll see these people, Joe Rogan's even an example of this. They're like, yeah, well, so the left brain tells you this and then that, and they'll go really in depth on a thing. And then they'll be like, so that's why I meditate. Right. And it'll take like 20 minutes to get to that conclusion. And I'll just be like, guys, you need to pray. And that's it. It took me 1 second to say that. It's like, guys, just pray. Right. Then the rest of the world will continue on these crazy things. They'll be like, hey, so, you need to take psychedelics and you need to go do shrooms and you need to, like, these are the new things that are going to help you achieve higher calling. And I'm like, no, you just need Jesus. Read your Bible and you're going to be fine. And, people will be like, what's your favorite leadership book? What's your, how do you know what to like manage people and stuff? I'm like, I literally just read the Bible every day and I try to do what Jesus did and how he led from a servant heart. And that's it. Because guess what? He was the best leader. Why am I going to go try and learn what this guy has to say about leadership? He ain't the best. And, it's just like, to me, it's so simple because of faith, but I understand why everyone makes it so complex.
But even from like in any other kind of pieces, and when I hear the wealthy way, the way you explained it, it's very, very simple.
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's very, very simple. Yet everyone out there struggles because they get sucked into the day-to-day minutia instead of focusing on the simple, basic building blocks, right? Yeah. And I'm also a simplifier. So like my wife, Michelle, she's a multiplier. She looks at things and she's like, okay, we can build this into this. And I was like, yes, but if we keep it in this structure, simple structure, we can accomplish without these 17 tentacles that are out there, right?
Yeah,
So together we're a great couple, right? Because we just one multiplies, the other simplifies, right?
Yeah.
But even in concepts, like even in podcasts sometimes, or in somebody explains a really complex scenario, and I was like, so what he essentially saying is this, and this, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, yes. And I hear you doing the exact same thing. That's why I was asking if you consider yourself that.
Oh, for sure, dude. Yeah. I'm like, I try to keep it so basic. And I'll tell you, not many people, like, that's a talent in itself to be able to simplify and all that. One guy who actually is very good at that is Cardone. Mm-hmm. A lot of people think Cardone is just like brash and just like to the point. And
no, he's a very sophisticated guy, very smart guy.
Oh, if you ever talk to him behind the scenes, you're like, this guy has a lot. But the way that he's able to just simply say what he needs to, because like Cardone's answered everything, people get tired of it. He's like, just 10x it. And like the truth is, he's right. At the end of the day, you want to grow your business? Well, 10x your leads. Like, just get 10 times more of the leads and your business will grow. That's what you're missing. And they're like, but what should I do here, there? And then he's like, no, just get 10 times more leads and the rest will take care of itself. And that's kind of like how I try to think of things. It's like, what's one thing I can do? And then the rest will take care of itself. And I think you learn that in sports, like especially in golf. The golf swing is so complex to make it right. And I've analyzed so many things, right? But then there's one thing that you do where it's like, if I just think, bring my club right here, the rest takes care of itself and everything functions properly. And so in sports, you don't have time to think about every little mechanical detail of an action. All you have is time to react. And so if you're going to succeed, you have to have one simple thought that's basically the catalyst to what makes you do things properly.
Talking about that, what, like in sports, particularly in baseball, like I'm from Germany. There's no baseball, right? So I know nothing about baseball. I know now. I sat down in the first couple of years in the United States. I sat down in my like in a recliner in this little college college town apartment, and I was like, I got to study that sport because I don't know anything about it.
Right.
So I go and I look at. I start looking at it and I start understanding the language and things like that. But then finally it hit home when a friend of mine took me into a batting cage one time.
Yeah.
And that machine hit that ball at like what speed? Like
fast. 90 plus.
Is it 90 plus? Is it fast? I don't know.
Well, every machine's different, but
whatever. It was like a set on beginner stage.
Oh, okay, maybe 50, 60.
It was kind of like going like this or so.
Oh, okay, it's probably 50, 60.
Everything hurt when I hit that ball, and I was like, I could not hit a ball for the life of it. And it's like, wow. I have no time whatsoever to actually make any kind of rational decision on whether or not I hit that thing or not. So it all becomes muscle memory.
Yes.
Do you think that helped you in business?
Oh, 1000%. I think that growing up, I never had a chance to think. You just only have the chance to react. So here's what happens is, preparation becomes the key to your ability to perform come game time. And so if we want to consider that right now we're in game time, we're podcasting. It's like it's go time. How am I going to perform well today? Well, I got to have put good preparation in well before this. How do I put good preparation in? Well, I practice. So I've made a lot of videos. I've talked to a lot of people. I've practiced. I got to have good energy. I got to sleep good the night before. I got to work out. I got to eat right. All those things. So it's like your preparation for all of this leads to performance in whatever it is your business has. And you don't have time to think, oh, well, what should I say and how should I do it? If you're in the middle of a negotiation with a seller or somebody, you don't have time to be like, hold on, time out. Let me read my notes and see this again. I don't even have notes for the podcast. I freaking just roll, and it's just from preparation, right? So, the more that you can prepare when you're alone and like go through that. And honestly too, right? Like I'll watch podcasts and everything and I'll say, man, what could I have said different? Like, why did I say that? Man, I'm using a lot of filler words. Why do I keep saying like? That's one of my pet peeves about myself is I use a ton of filler words.
We'll wrap up in a couple of minutes. Just one subject matter that I want to bring up right now is that obviously you're deeply ingrained in the community, in the social media community, in the real estate community. Let's bring up the market a little bit. The real estate market, the economy. What do you see happening right now? Obviously in Vegas is like Phoenix, like one of the markets that fast goes up and goes down. And I think just overall, where are we right now? And what do you see, particularly on the real estate side of things, happening in the next couple of years, your opinion?
Yeah. So, long story short, here, at least in residential in Vegas, it's still a seller's market. There's low inventory, even though rates are high and prices are higher, it's still a seller's market. And I don't see that changing anytime soon because guess what? If they lower rates, it's gonna become even more demand, right? And
are you planning to do anything in the office or multifamily or other space? Office is like I hear about that like vulture funds are being created right now to take advantage of the fallout in the office space. And potentially starting to hear something about the multifamily, particularly for those that bought in the last few years with short-term loans. Actually, even lenders have called me already, lenders that I've worked with in the past. They're like, Jack, are you buying? He's like, yes, I'm buying. And he's like, okay, so we might have in the next few months coming up several properties that will go over the table or under, like that will cross the table without anyone kind of noticing. And just at rock bottom prices. And are you interested? And it's like, yes, please. Count me in, right? So just had a phone call like that last week and a couple more coming up. So are you preparing for that? Are you like, what was your take on that?
Yeah, dude, I'm an opportunist. I'm open to anything and everything. So, I mean, we have a fund and, we've bought hundreds of units in the fund. And whenever a deal comes across the table that's really good, I go out to raising. And guess what? I get on social media, I talk about it, and we go raise the money. And so I'm open to anything and everything. We're still flipping, we're still wholesaling. I was telling you earlier, I want to develop a golf course and I'm looking for land there. So dude, I'm open to anything and everything.
Yeah, tell us about that right now. So tell us a little bit about that because a lot of our audience is land flippers.
Heck yeah. So guys, all right, this is my personal email if you get this deal. Okay. Ryan@pineda.co. All right. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for about, call it 600 to 1,000 acres in a wealthy area. Okay. Ideally somewhere that like is a second home that people would want. You know, I'm looking at Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, you know, mountainous green type areas. What my plan is...
Closer to a bigger city or doesn't matter?
Just be within like 30, 40 minutes of an airport. Okay. You know, that's the main criteria. I don't want it in the middle of nowhere. So my plan is, you know, I want to build this golf course community and, you know, maybe we'll have like 250 homes and, you know, epic golf course and amenities and all this other stuff. But I also want to donate a portion of the land to a Christian nonprofit. And basically this nonprofit is going to create a Christian retreat center, you know, for marriages and kids. And, you know, there'll be all this other cool stuff like an amphitheater. And within that, you know, we'll build a little commercial district that the nonprofit will own. And, you know, there'll be food and, you know, all this other cool stuff. And basically the cash flow from the commercial would fund the nonprofit. So that way it'd be self-sustaining. And so my vision is, you know, you're going to get all these people who, you know, are going to look at this as a good investment either way. They're like, yo, I want to live here. I like golf, but I'm also realizing I'm going to be around other like-minded people who wanted to support this mission. And so it's going to kind of become its like own little mastermind of, you know, I expect a lot of Christian, you know, wealthy people to want to do it. But, you know, I'm sure other people are going to do it too. That are like, dude, I just want to live there. Like, that's a great piece of real estate and a great golf course. Because it will be. Take that whole for-purpose element out of it. It's going to be sick because it's going to be made by a real estate and golf guy who like is building it for himself, really. Of like, this is what I want because I know it's tight.
All right. So 700 to 1,000 acres.
Yeah, about, yep.
About in one of these western states, green hills, beautiful trees, not
wealthier
desert.
Area, yeah, close to an airport.
Wealthier, close to an airport. Guys, if you see that, if you come across a deal like that, right, shoot it to me. I'll send it over to Ryan, shoot it to Ryan directly. Great, wonderful. So, hey, with that said, let's wrap this up. So how can somebody get a hold of you, overall speaking, if they want to learn more about social media, about real estate, about fixing, about all the different things that you do? Yeah, so, you know, you can follow me on social media, just Ryan Pineda everywhere. If you got that land deal, Ryan@pineda.co. And then, you know, for any of our programs and stuff, I mean, you'll just find them on social media. We have so many companies, so... All right. Yeah. That's it. Thank you very much for being on the show. Everyone, this concludes the latest episode of the Jack Bosch Show. Make sure you give us the 5-star review and you follow. All right. Thank you.